Now to our Commitment 2026 coverage, there are 8 candidates in the race to represent California's newly redrawn 3rd Congressional District. It now covers Nevada County, El Dorado County, and parts of Placer and Sacramento counties. KCRA3's Brandy Cummings spoke to all the candidates who have reported campaign funding.
These are 6 of the candidates in the race to represent California's Congressional District 3. Chris Bennett is an Army veteran, former tech worker, and community activist who says he quit his job to run for Congress. Democrat Ami Bera currently represents California's 6th Congressional District and serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. He was first elected to Congress in 2012. Democrat Lyndon Pacey Cervantes is a longtime radio host and community advocate. Democrat Heidi Hall is a Nevada County supervisor and once worked for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Republican Christine Bish is a small business owner and realtor. Republican Rob Tucker is a Nevada County supervisor and businessman. We began with the economy.
What specific steps do you see and would you take to lower the cost of living for families in the district?
We've got to do everything. We've got to, obviously, let's end this war in Iran so we can get oil prices, gasoline prices back to where they're manageable. But we've got a real issue with the utility prices. We've got to address that. Part of that, when I talk to some of the utility companies, is the fire risk and having to mitigate that fire risk. But some of it is, why do I pay one rate? Because we have SMUD in Sacramento County, and you go across to Yolo County and they've got PG&E and they pay sometimes twice as much as what we're paying.
Tariffs are something that Congress should be delivering. We should be pulling those back. We also need to invest, right? We need to invest in healthcare. We need to invest in affordable housing. We need to invest in universal daycare. We need to do things that make it easier for people to live, for us to raise wages, and for folks to function in this world today. I'm also advocating to repeal the billionaire tax cut so there are more funds to invest in working people and small businesses.
I truly believe we could cut the military budget by 2/3 without losing any capabilities if we just cut out the private profit motive. So I think fundamentally, we really need to actually just start investing in our communities. You know, we need to invest in public housing, which has been artificially restricted since 1999. We need to do public investment for low and middle income housing. So fundamentally, really, the reason why things are so unaffordable is because everything has been turned into a way for someone to make money off of us. And a lot of these things are absolutely critical for us just as human beings to live and survive. And so the government should really be focusing on meeting people's basic needs.
We hear people talking about affordable housing, government housing, and that they want to tax us to build affordable housing. How about roll back the taxes, roll back the regulations, allow us to clean up the forested areas, and help redevelop existing communities. We call it assemblage. That's when you go into blighted communities and we rehab them.
The thing is, in this district specifically, we are reliant on these monopoly run utilities that are honestly illegally operating as monopolies. So if you turn them into not-for-profit community energy providers, like, for example, SMUD, essentially SMUDifying PG&E, that's going to help lower the utility bills by about 40%. I also plan on expanding affordable healthcare access, moving towards Medicare for all, because the private insurance companies just can't help the community. Like, they are only in it for the profit of their own business.
The affordability crisis is being caused by policies here in the state, and now not only in the leadership of our state, but I would say in other people in both this race and CD3 and elsewhere, are wanting to bring those policies to a national level. We've seen them fail here in California. Now they want to bring them to a national level. So, I think nationwide, I think less regulation.
But his district does include suburban Sacramento communities, as well as, of course, the Sierra regions. How will you balance the competing needs of the two?
There are things that are really deeply in common, but I'm also, anxious to learn more about the area. One of the things we have in common is that I hear everywhere across every part of this district that they want a progressive Democrat in this seat, that they want someone who's going to be responsive, who's going to show up, who's going to have town halls. I'm not corporate backed, I'm grassroots, and that's something they are demanding as well.
We are maintaining relationships with people in all the different areas, whether it's urban, suburban, and rural. We are attuned to the issues people are facing. And the other thing that really differentiates our platform, which is the most comprehensive of any candidate in this race, is that it's actually being built and directly inputted by members of the community, the people that are actually being impacted. Like, we're not trying to impose the things that we think you need. We're trying to understand what you as the experts need and then make sure that that's what we're advocating for.
I believe we're going to need at least 3 satellite offices, even if they're only staffed a couple of days a week. We need to have one up in the Lake Tahoe area. We absolutely have to have one up in Auburn and Grass Valley. Then as we get into the foothills, and then of course serving Sacramento and Sacramento County. That's the only way that I believe we can really serve each community and their unique needs.
So you've got to go out there. You've got to meet with folks. You've got to ask questions and listen, and then work with the local electeds, the county and state electeds, to say, okay, what are 2 or 3 priorities that we can get done? That's what I've done in Sacramento County, and that's certainly how I'm approaching the new parts of the district.
A lot of the people up there are dealing with fire insurance, and taking on PG&E, turning them into a not-for-profit community energy provider, will really help them not start any more fires, essentially, because if you take the billions of dollars in profits that PG&E makes and put that towards fire-resistant programs like undergrounding their lines, that's really going to help the Sierra area of this district.
Wildfire resilience and mitigation and the insurance cancellations are huge. I would guess more than half of my constituents in my supervisor district have lost their insurance and are on the FAIR plan, and many more are facing the threat of either skyrocketing costs. Water storage and infrastructure up there are these huge issues. Down in the more urban areas, yes, those impact them, but I think there is the most concern are more public safety related, and there's some issues with housing and homelessness more particularly.
I'm Brandy Cummings, KCRA 3 News.
And there are a total of 8 candidates in the race to represent District 3. Democrats Chris Bennett, Ami Bera, Lyndon Pacey, Cervantes, and Heidi Hall. Republicans Christine Bish, Laura Koski, and Rob Tucker, and Green Party candidate Chris Richardson.